to surrounding territories. You have, that is Macedonia, Serbia, Israel, that entire region. You would to have, equally as is the case with Western territories, you would to have two faces. Not equally as Western territories, but equally as Israel. You would to have two faces. One face of wrongdoing committed in 2 millenniums of playing the circles of extraction versus the principal imperial bloodline and ultimately Jesus' bloodline. And second would be what you now would like to play it on some kind of international scale, and what you have been playing it for a longer period of time, as you are associated with territories of Jesus Christ. Yes, but to the extent that you have been found on the wrong side of the equation, how much of credit you can get out of it? That is the question for the one living in the proximity of these temples. And the fact that they have been found in majority of the cases. Therefore, we can split here the population. Either it is in category of being victimized, or it is in category of being victimizer. And then you would know exactly and precisely how you relate to the situation. There is leadership within this breaking line, and that is previously the order of Crusaders, that is / the Templars, and later on what become Masons. They're the ones that continue to spread that teaching of wrongdoing versus Jesus and versus his bloodline, and ultimately versus imperial bloodline. Why? Because there are money hiding in that level of performance. So to the extent that you are direct member of that order, you're directly on the wrong side. If you have been brainwashed by that order and by these people and recruited by these people and submitted to them, you are second-hand offender. If you have been recruited from little kids in the wrongdoing, you are on the victim side. Because you have been recruited as a little child by the order. That is where victim protocol line of victims begins, which means that would be in question closer to the families. Closer to the bloodline. Because case would be used directly in the piping. That is, ultimately that line would be leading to the centerpiece of the piping itself. Accordingly, they would be the relatives, because they have day-to-day living contact with the actual bloodline. And that is here why social network is important, has become important. And look who would be managing it and what would be the centers that would be managing the social network. Well, initially they would be there for the Templars, the Crusaders, the Templars, the Masons, but then also have become also the main players of the power center of the realm. And that is, you find today monarchs. They're certainly pledging alliance with Donald Trump. I mean, we are not going to ignore the fact that he is a Mason. Certainly they're not ignoring it either. They're not pledging partnership with me, they're pledging partnership with him, because only then they can have their hands on my money. If they go with me, that's not going to happen. then they would wait for my mercy. If they go with Donald Trump, they play patrons, and I am a victim. It is another question how far he was. They would have been enforced to go in that direction. As I would say that little that they would know about these things, or maybe I'm wrong. In any case scenario, when starts W protocol, it's very hard to find on easy note a common denominator here. There is way too much of contradicting of everything that I am, that we can overcome that in some kind of easy step. It would require total comprehensive reform. And to the extent that continue to be too much to ask for, we are that far away from how this can only be played on the West side. And otherwise, it cannot. I know it is too much to ask, but it is also too much to ask to bring this on your side. I think that has been overseen as well. I mean, underestimated. Not just what is the price, but what we are talking about altogether. I'm talking about planet Earth, not about a nation. And I'm not going to bring a planet to you in a mode of fish and chips. That is where we are. It becomes rather a question what part of history I want to use and how I want to use it. It comes to that. So that is why I'm going to ask you today, Earthians, to pay attention where it is exactly the size of my integrity, who fall in that circle, and how you can play that ball, and then how you can't play that ball. And Elon Musk and his protocol Tesla, which I have no doubt involves equally what they ended up to call artificial intelligence, where he considered himself stopping up the case. It is to be noticed how far it is undermining the actual political formation of the planet, and accordingly of all of the nations in consequence. We all would understand that what this person does, it is actually very dangerous and it is damaging the planet. And now we can actually establish how that exact and precise is happening. He is undermining a role of a nation in a given circumstances. By producing protocol AI on planetary level and bringing companies to such high jurisdiction, level of jurisdiction, that is right to do whatever they want on the planetary levels, they are undermining the role of state. So going in Germany, that is known or has been known by a very strong state apparatus, it is offensive, rather offensive, because Elon Musk is not exactly Hitler. And because Elon Musk is not Hitler, and he has not worked it out at all in his mind, what actually would make that difference as well, and that is to be 100% of your time actually in politics. Even Hitler was better in something, I mean, in that regard. At least he understood that he is on the topic of political game, and that he is speaking in the name of a nation, or certainly have took a nation within some kind of headquarter level of leadership. Elon Musk doesn't have such ambition. His ambition in to introduce artificial intelligence that is going to function what Hitler was doing in last century. as I doubt that he has any further ambition than exactly that one. His ambition is just to make Hitler controllable. And he wants to use artificial intelligence for that purpose. He is not on mind that he is automatically and directly intervening with protocol state and protocol political function. That is the problem with Elon Musk. Germany, topping up the planet, should bring a bit more of intelligence than the one enclosed so far. Germany, you're on call as well. To understand, first of all, what's happening, if nothing more. Where all of this is crossing is at the point of recognizing too much of that ancient Macedonian, we recognize it usually as Macedonia-related theater level of performance of our civilization, and very much going therefore, instead to discuss the systems, bringing the ball on highlighting persons and bringing some kind of theatrical play of characters in some kind of theatrical play, in such way dissecting the ancient family into theatrical identity-driven performance rather than family-driven performance, which is number one mistake. And here I have to find the center of the entire cancer. Macedonia, sitting on Macedonian side, sitting within this 2 millenniums old platform where ancient Macedonians, which have been many sicknesses, being reason why that territory continue to be slashed down, because it is profoundly sick in some kind of paganary ways, continue therefore to ignore the modern science, modern political science, and that is delivering of compact state and compact military alike formation, which is in peace as well. You need strong organization. If you want to be a state, you have to have, even in peace or in war, very strong configuration. They're behaving in different way. They're just spreading it over, and they're using the protocol theater. And it might be associated to the Martians themselves. Because it has become quite a planetary play, and they're still playing it on the level of family, on the level of one family. And that is almost sick. It is rather sickening. And it is so much anti-state and anti political formation in classical terms, in the way how we understand this world today, very, very much based on organization of each of the separate nations and building healthy families and healthy society, healthy individuals and healthy families, of course. Well, when you dissect a principal family that should be there to be perfect example for what is family as a therefore embryo or main cell to any society. If you bring to that main cell, to that cell of society, as it is family, in this case in our ancient imperial family, if you bring this kind of cancer-like approach of setting individuals one against another, that is cancer here defined. You're basically implementing that cancer over the entire planet. So what Hollywood does is nothing of naive and nothing of correct. And as a result, what Hollywood produces is nothing of correct either. I'm going to therefore notice that I have resolved the cancer of the planet accordingly, and Donald Trump accordingly. I am the receiver of the Nobel Prize, not you, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, this is very, very, very important to me. Not the Nobel Prize, but not allowing someone else to get it. Donald Trump, not allowing someone else to get it, is very, very, very important to me today. So, Artians, let's pay attention to details. If you have houses, stay assured that you're using them responsibly, or you are anti-world yourself. What I have said, I can't bring this on level of families, despite the fact that Macedonia makes such a big deal out of it, but Macedonia is not today dictating the game, but my work and myself. I'm implementing approach national responsibility as well, national configuration, national responsibility, and certainly state formation, and I'm willing to bring this discussion on the ground only with states and on the level of state behavior. Immediately dismantle Hollywood and their protocol of commanding or pressing the button with my work, and in such way taking for themselves or being entitled to take for themselves credit for this work. Immediately, State of Macedonia dismantle, and State of USA and State of England and State of Israel immediately dismantle all of the apparatus that is being employed to continue to press the button over me and get credit on second-hand event. Excalibur is not about holding the sword. It is about being sword. It is about to be or not to be. Macedonia, Israel, UK, and USA, and Russia eventually, and China eventually, act immediately upon it. It is to be or not to be. Artians, my verdict for today. On the level of extraterrestrial subjects, first of all, the one that can afford to speak or to spell out the subject matter is myself and no one else really. I can spell, and I'm not afraid to spell the subject, but I'm actually recognizing myself very much as what was the name, that movie, Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, Wonderland with Judy Garland. Yeah, you remember that movie? Well, if you have not seen it, go and see it. So that is where I'm going to find you on that subject particularly. And if you have any question, I would be very happy to answer it as well. With this performance, I have put Macedonia and USA under my feet, where I would expect them to continue to be exactly there. I am going to use England, monarchy of England, therefore Buckingham Palace, for resetting the planet. And I expect the planet to assist me with that. I have initially declared that council, my counseling office is in United Nations, in terms also to reform it, and to the extent that Australia cannot even spell that there is a person attempting to reform United Nations, but rather are willing to get the entire credit and cash out of it, Australians. I have put you under my feet with this work as well, in case I have not said it so far. Australians, in the name of Goddess of Absolute Justice, Themis, Australia, salute. Australia, I'm going to use Buckingham Palace, and whatever you say for a day is going to be noticed, Australia, accordingly. Australia, you have not noticed that I'm delivering the Constitutional Act in promise to reform United Nations. Australia, why you are ignoring my existence and you want everyone to notice you're Julian Assange? Australia, you have a question for today. Before you dare to speak Australian accent ever again under English veil. Accordingly, I'm assigning State of Macedonia and State of Serbia to start preparing the best diplomatic team from both territories, because it is mother and father protocol, to accompany me and also to arrange this entire matter to finally get on the ground. The State of Serbia and State of Macedonia always goes first father and then mother within the official certification. they ask your father name. Although I'm very much promoting rights of a woman, in this case scenario, finding bigger hole on Macedonian territory, I will be, well, you know, it's hard to compare this two, but still I'm going to find a higher alignment in the substance of matters of England, of Buckingham Palace in Serbia, and I want to respect that. I'm asking therefore the two territories to organize this event to actually take ground. The best diplomatic team, and arrange with Buckingham Palace directly how this is going to happen. We are talking about office, and we are talking about also bringing the sense of inheriting something as well in all of the historic terms. Remember, you're not going there in your name, you're going there in my name. And in the name of the work I have delivered. Tell them I bring the manifesto, latest one, called Constitution of Earth. Earthians, salute, and thank you for your assistance, if we can call it like that. Alexander the Great will need to remain one of the biggest or strongest charismatic characters of a European ancient history. His name should not be blunted, should not be dragged into mud. We need to learn how to be a respectful civilization. If there is something to be addressed, you should know when to become discretional and respectful. Discretion is a word invented in this world for a longer period of time. You have to learn how to play your words if you want to continue to keep that reference of the most developed part of the world, rather than to each time jump in shoes of predators. But then you're claiming a civilization as well. The very fact that you have here reached the temple, one of the highest ancient temples of the planet, and I have been suggesting so for quite some time, it needed to ring the bells where you need to stop playing that much with gypsies, and when you need to return to what really should be top of the political playground. Today you're going to be measured by your capacity to play that properly, or lack or lost senses. Of course, I'm talking about the entire population that for 2 millenniums obviously was dragging the bull on the detriment of their own history and for the purpose of their own pocket collection. We cannot today criticize Donald Trump beyond the fact that he represented the Temple of Alexander the Great, which I have clearly pointed out by pointing out that I have a cousin sitting home that is basically more like a copy of Alexander. I never managed to learn much about him, but I think he was born rather in a family in parents, that combination of very, very, very civil and very, very, very polite, and out of very, very, very civil father, blue fish protocol, and mother, Serb dignitary, Serb graduate with her silent excellence, combination of silent excellence of my aunt and graciousness and very sophisticated presence, which I inherited from her directly, and his father that was so silent and so calm and so so nice and so polite. I really don't know how much one can expect some kind of rudimental performance. But I think that he survived to be right there behind me and to know how to be there. The game down there was very close to the bone, and to keep them in the shadows was the wisest something I could have think of. But that was one of the prominent Yugoslavian families. Our Alexander. In America, it's happening strongly on the business side rather than on political side. In our formation, it will be exclusively political, not exclusive, but very. There would be like 70% politics, 30% business, because in substance, when it is in question, small state, it's very hard to distinct the two. Business become political when it is a small state. It's not possible to be anything else. Business become politics and politics become business. When it is a big state as it is America, there is more of a playground. And locating state of liberty initially certainly pointed out the relevance within the bloodline and about and of bloodline that should continue to define American society. So let's make long story short here. When you notice that it is in question high stakes story, be respectful, because it is about the foundation of the very state you call yours, and you are under the spell or depending on the destiny of that state. This is not a question of freedom. It is question of constitutions. It is question of formations. It is question of integrity and question of international relationships to the very foundations of millenniums of history making. This is not playground that you can play on personal level. This is playground that you should understand and be aware of. And I have pointed out to you very much the main coordinates upon which this is going to happen, and within which coordinates you should be safely playing your present times. Because since I have my own son, which I see more as within the protocol Star Wars, that is eyes to the future, I would be talking to my son and daughter differently. I would be more interested to find them planetary aware, very much informed and educated to the best. And I would like to see them very much understanding today with me and assisting exactly and precisely what I do here. I would see them more as apostles than as kings, because what I do here is also writing a constitution. It is a legal aspect and required to be assisted in its own aspects. Here it is where we walk in United Nations and become a world. And I need my kids to cross that kind of bridges and find themselves in United Nations speaking to the world. I mean, assisting, obviously, assisting this office. So with my kids, I am crossing the times of the previous political charting, and we are reaching planetary perspective. I find more Serbia here because I found there more of that cosmic intelligence. And my kids, as I can notice, certainly have followed that substantially and found themselves very much with me, playing that protocol X and trying to play the times of their own. So as you can see, there is no overlapping here. Everyone still exists in its own some kind of formations, and let's try to play that role the best each of us can, and by doing so will continue to assist this art. I have not said that we have king of America, because America is a republic. I think we are very happy to see America being as it was democracy, that every 4 years is going to highlight some different aspect of that large territory and bring forward different kind of issues in 4 or 8 time period. I think that when you have such large territory, it is important to be representative enough to the territory and continue to solve problems. I would like to see someone as Marco Rubio being president next time, for example. Simply because there was someone as Barack Obama president, so why Marco Rubio would not be one of the next presidents of America? That is not about increasing immigration. This is about fighting for its own people to have better presence. And that is why and bringing forward qualitative bloodlines that are going to empower and improve American society. So I would say America in that context. Everyone playing its own role, being noticed for its own place, and playing when it is their time to play it in the best they can. People for whom we have been spending and wasting the thousands of our lives, start thinking respectfully of the history of humanity as how you should be thinking about it. The humanity doesn't define without the top performers. Today you're very much willing to attend some kind of great rock and roll concerts that are going to be defined by just few people holding the stage. And you call that something about your freedom. But it is actually about few people holding the stage and controlling the situation. I'm not sure that is how they are going to say it. They are going to say it as a blessing so they can express their energetic vibe. And if that works for everyone else, everyone wins. In terms of politics, it is slightly different. We all exist in our vibes, and then at some point we match. So we need to understand. You need to understand how you match with my kind of people. In the way how you have understood that you match very well with these music makers that you continue to adore, devote your lives to that kind of adoration. But when it comes to kings and queens, you tend to forget that they are in the same category. How it costs, you tell me, to organize a rock and roll concert? What kind of money gets wasted there? I'm very sure that's going to surface arranging a couple of apartments of any of the monarchs. Yet they are going to last for lifetime while you trash that concert in a few hours' time. And the money went into air. When you build a house for a monarch, it lasts centuries and centuries and centuries. I would say it's money well spent. But let's notice also, these are not just your money. These are money that belong to them as well. As the humanity doesn't belong just to you, it belongs to them as well. They are part of humanity and part of the protocol humanity. Not just you. So when you make next time freedom movement, understand that word within the protocol humanity, not within the protocol user account. It's time to step up and start understanding things on better terms. Your question for today: how it costs to organize certain freedom rally? How much money that's going to cost to organize a freedom rally versus how much money is going to cost to arrange apartment for a monarch. How much money costs to make New Year event for the people, right? How much costs to refurnish a house, a townhouse for a monarch? Artians, do the mathematics before we continue to talk about freedom of humanity. I have found you today on spot using my performance to generate money, end up using my money in the way how you want. Would you like someone to relate to your money like that? You want to talk about freedom, humanity? Let's talk about freedom, humanity. Have I not found you on the spot using my money? Now, why on earth you're talking about us using your money when it is you using our money? Well, I'm talking here. Of course, there is some kind of political breakage or lost in translation. And maybe I end up talking about real estate as well. But we are talking about real matters today, right? Well, that is therefore for you, that real question as well, humanity. You have appointed these models out there to work for you, right? Using my money, you engage them, and then they play puppetry to you. That is how that worked. Well, now we are going to understand how money works as well. In case someone still wonders, on these matters. So I'm going there to take what's mine, and you are going to assess it. Artians, that's our deal of today. Artians, salute. And when it comes to talking about money, we are going to start talking about infrastructure. When my kind is in question, it ends up to be infrastructure. What infrastructure I'm talking today about? I'm talking about the headquarters, not about roads, not about railways, not about bridges. I'm talking about the headquarters. Artians, pay attention to details. My work is bringing constitution of planet Earth. It doesn't take anything less or more than that. Do you want to talk about money as well? I'm going to wait you for that conversation in its own time. Prepare your notebooks and your questions. I'm going certainly to notice that you have allowed yourself to think that God doesn't need to be paid. I mean, when you think about it, we all expect of God all sorts of things we can possibly think of imaginable. And we don't think that we have to pay anything about it. You go in churches and you provide some kind of coins, right? Like a mercy. For whom? For God. That is how you have been treated, God, all of these times. And now you want to talk about the money. What do you expect my answer to be? I'm asking all of the money-related commentators to pay attention to what I have just said now. Before even you speak about golden standard, which is rather laughable, it sounds for Benny Hill burlesque. As far as I'm concerned, that is the stupidest thing one can possibly think of, which indicates how narrow-minded you are. Are you reptilians? Well, it's time to notice that reptilians are narrow-minded and that we cannot give a planet to narrow-minded reptilians. Earthians, my verdict for today. Wastelands, my verdict for today. If the subject is planetary, as money is subject planetary, don't take it on your side of the equation. As of today, as of yesterday, I have established finally and officially, reptilian mind is narrow-minded and cannot surface upper questions. Neither can provide answers to upper questions because it is narrow-minded. So you have a big question, don't jump first in line to answer it. It's my friendly recommendation. Because that question is not just yours. You can't run away with it. I have answered that question a million times by now. It seems that the planet doesn't listen to what I'm talking about. Or it might be that you're perfectly aware of it, just it is suitable for you not to answer that properly. As for example, when we are going to talk about a nation being defined at the valuation point by its real estate protocol and by the overall national development. That is what dictates the amount of money in circulation. Nothing less, but exactly that. More you develop, more you need more money to surface, to provide circulation of more of what you have produced. More people in the game, more money in the game. The value is defined by what you produce and how worth you are in service providing. In all the mathematics of plus and minus, it comes about this money that needs to circulate, as the value is not what money are doing. Money are not expressing the value. Money are allowing circulation in the economy. Value is defined via what value is defined via. Kindergarten children can tell you by now. But I have given you wastelands credit in terms of, especially if talk about reptilian aligned population, although I really don't know how far this is going on, or it can go. I certainly have given you credit to that kind of purity, and I won't call it simplicity, but capacity to be straightforward, and well, I would like to call it reliable if we manage to develop certain formula that can afford certain durability. As you will see, it all comes to how you are going to use human resources, not just about having them. In that context, it is one thing to declare, for example, temples, and to notice that they continue to be used all the way, especially on the West Wing. And that is why today it has become West Wing again, because we have established that it is heavily based on using our DNA, and especially temple DNA properties, which is entitles someone as me from such territories, from such perspective, to start speaking to the planet accordingly based on the genetic credits that I derive from solely that approach employed, a part of the fact that certain temples continue to hold their relevant planetary configuration on their own, which is additional element to my approach. But certainly I'm talking now and then about certain entitlement to see the planet, to see territories as within certain connection, despite the fact that you refuse to notice that. And especially in times where you appear to be, although presumed in charge, very much stacked and dragging everyone else down, certainly we'll find ourselves jumping here on the stage within the impression that as much as affects us, it is also entitled us to bring this level of intervention under our nomination account. Let's notice where we are moving today with this work. And in that context, I wanted to say, therefore, as the temples that you are using, that you have been using and you continue to use are ours to a great extent, it is entitled us to command the way how they are going to be employed. And further on, of course, how that's going to be impregnated in the overall system. That is exactly where we are today. And I think I have been still very much more the best possible answer in the given circumstances one can wish for, really. Anyone else in mind could have been easily using this very momentum to declare some kind of occupation over your territories, or even to declare their position as a god over your territories. I have no intention to do any of such things, but certainly to point out that there is that kind of connection, and that we need to respect it and to continue to bring this kind of planetary development with that sense of connectiveness and certain degree of understanding, comprehending what really is happening here. I'm going to find at this stage, while I'm doing my work, equal as a university professor would expect, that students comprehend, understand what that professor is trying to say or trying to do. Comprehension is what usually we are after when we are bringing our work in amphitheaters. We expect populace, the audience, to understand what we are trying to say. And that's important for me, that you actually understand what I want to say now. And that you need to understand this world properly. Before you become political, you have to understand it, or you might get it wrong. And that's not going to be good. It's going to be time waste of resources, and waste of life. And it's happening in human history exactly in such order. Many, many, many times, more than we would expect to happen in times like this. In recent times of human history, we would expect people to understand things more and make less mistakes. Yet, we are not getting there. We're just not getting there. You're jumping too fast. You don't want to understand. You refuse to understand. You want to use and misuse. That is not how we are going to understand our planet this time. We have to understand this planet as how we should understand it. You're using our resources. How far that can go? Without someone to say, wait a minute, I'm talking here about some configuration. Can you please pay attention to what I do before you are going to continue to talk about what you do? Because I feel offended. I feel not offended personally, but I feel that you are not attending this properly. In that context, for example, I have come in New Zealand not as a gang, but as an identity. I have not come in New Zealand as a gang, and I refuse to be defined as a gang. I heard the other day some discussion happening from some kind of Irish compound with some kind of Germanic Croatian accent, us and them and their circles, and their woman or something. You're not going to speak that language in a state conditions of existence. If you exist as a state, not as a feudal some kind of gang protocol, and in Ireland it's very hard to bring this conversation, I would be aware. But I'm certainly coming from territory where the notion of state has been defined and worked out very strongly. And I have come from territories where there is very strong definition of state. So I would not accept someone to define my positions on top of this entire work that I have delivered on the surface of this planet. I have not come here as a gang. I have come here as a person, as identity, as individual. And I have come from one state into another state. There is no any other way upon which you can employ legal system today. I understand we are talking here about monarchy, which Ireland is actually not. And as far as I can understand, you have translated that into some kind of mafia protocol. I have said many, many times, I'm going to say as long as it takes. For me, monarchy is level of state. Or I actually identify monarchy as a level of state. And I'm going to find that in Serbia, in England now inappropriate, that we continue to see monarchy different than what is state. State is a monarchy. England is a monarchy. I mean, monarchy grows into state and becomes a state because that is how that works. Because that is how that state has been created, via monarchy. It has not fallen from the sky. And if you think that now it is time that the rest of the gangs get that much of a more place, what I'm saying is no one is going to be gang, including that monarchy. But it is all transiting, all together. All of the families are transiting on the state level. All of the families, including that monarchy, are reaching the state level. And then they are going to get some grant in terms of historic heritage and things like that. And then all of the families get covered on terms of historic heritage. But that is state. It's going to continue to be state approach, not state into a state or mafia into a state. Accordingly, I come from one state into another state. I have come from one state into another state. I am identity. And if I'm capable to make that much of a balloon around me, it is I am. It is me making this balloon around myself, not balloon being around me, but I making balloon around me. That is definition of aura. That is how human exists and has aura. It is not aura over the human. It is human and the aura. Let's understand that properly. Kia ora community as well. Let's understand this properly. So I'm surrounded by some kind of Macedonian community in the street where I live, which I understand is all happening, the address 566, and my head is going to break down by some kind of intensive Macedonian voices going into my head. I'm sorry, I cannot define myself as a mafia protocol. I have said many times, I'm promoting state protocol. I'm individual, I'm citizen of a state of New Zealand. And I don't have neither dementia, or Alzheimer. But I'm certainly going to ask a state to investigate why these sicknesses are having such names. A state has been tasked. New Zealand, you have been tasked to answer this question. I can notice it is very present. These sicknesses are very present, especially on the west side. I'm tasking, therefore, USA as well, and the entire Western society to answer why these sicknesses are being called dementia and Alzheimer. Maybe Macedonians can help as well, so we can answer this question. Macedonians, State of Macedonia, can you please organize that Macedonian people answer this question properly? Macedonians, salute. Answer the question properly. Mental disease is also a question, event very much associated especially with older civilizations. Macedonia is somehow leading here on the level of paganary and on the level of substance of mental illness. I don't know why in Macedonia is so much present, it's seriously present that and such a mental dimension. It seems that that is confirming that it is one of the oldest civilizations in the region. We need to establish here, therefore, not just how old this very, very, very old civilization. We're talking about Macedonian civilization, extremely very old. but also what is the consequences of someone being that much old civilization. They have very strongly developed mental dimension. And it has not been taken enough care about properly regulating all of that. First of all, the best approach is to do self-regulation unless you are stupid as a nation and as a people. I have met a couple of individuals out there referring to me as bega, you kind of like I have some kind of, just because I want to I made some kind of comment that was very much being I would say maybe a bit too spoiled, that they found as matter of some kind of my mental deficiency rather than their shortage of understanding the situation. Now, it is very dangerous when you end up to be judged by lower minds that end up to call people of my kind dementia, or the one having a sickness of dementia, rather than them being deficient in understanding my mind. Punishing people for what they cannot understand, and that is where I'm going to find Serbia, obviously. The Macedonia is older and some kind of minority protocol. We have here a very strong conflicting line between what is the mental degree of these little people, obviously, and their lack of capacity to understand mental dimension. I'm not going to be judged by the little Macedonian people on my dimension. Accordingly, I'm asking the planet to address this issue versus little people of Macedonia, especially, and the sicknesses as Alzheimer and dementia to be associated with little people of Macedonia and their mental capacity to intervene in our minds and in our lives from positions of God, well, actually, they appear to be the lower one. Well, no one is going to say God as a little thing, some kind of Danny DeVito protocol. I'm sorry, but it is not how it works, this universe. This universe works on the size of matters, after all. I have heard also that Macedonians would hold that little evilness, that Scorpio element. Well, Serbia usually brings the sense of grandiosity, the sense of benefactor. It is like Eve and Adam on display. New Zealand, I expect restraint order to any Macedonians, to all of the Macedonians in my circles. I expect restraint order from this kind of mental intervention with my mind. New Zealand, state of New Zealand, your police by now should be reaching that level of interventionism as well. It is pointless now to leave that to priests in the churches, when they're all being locked in who knows what kind of agreements out there. We need police to develop on the level of investigating the frequencies of our mind and interventions over our mind by the neighbors and local community. New Zealand, your police has been instructed accordingly. If that exists in some kind of pro-Macedonian shape, New Zealand, then it will need to be changed. Police cannot exist as a political party protocol. That's out of question. We'll need to be aligned with constitution of state. As today I'm bringing it in United Nations as art level. From there it will need to be charted in progression of how I have been bringing it down to the ground. You're still under the jurisdiction of England because you cannot afford to lose the currency. From the position of England, we have to clarify here today what constitutes the constitutional account of England, of British monarchy, of England, therefore, constitutional account. That is not just one rose, these are two roses. And I would not call it exactly a rose when it is in question a mind. So it's not going to be just Eve when there is Adam sitting there as well. Enormous speaking in my mind, which is totally simply reaching some level of attack. It's not a sickness, it's attack. New Zealand, it is not a sickness, it is attack. Accordingly, bring your presence on the ground.